Globe policies. Call Globe today.
To receive complete information and applications by return mail, call Globe at 1-800-480-1400. Call Globe today.
Right now, it's your local forecast on the Weather Channel.
This aerial view of Chicago shows a city locked in the grip of winter with an icy film on the Chicago River and a covering of white representing the second largest snowfall in the city's recorded history. Well, icy weather turned to rain in New Jersey, but not until after this multi-car collision earlier this morning on Interstate 80. The major winter storm is now spreading headaches for travelers across the Northeast. Well, good morning and welcome to the special edition of Weather Center. I'm Rick Griffin. We'll have a live report from the Northeast on the latest effects of this major storm in just a moment. First of all, a quick look at the weather map shows a rather complex system with a couple of low-pressure centers. There's snow in the Great Lakes. Torrential rain has been pelting the big cities like New York City. We'll check that out shortly. And there's ice in the Northeast. In fact, we have a Weather Channel crew in Albany, New York. Mike Seidel has been placed ahead of the storm and is keeping track of the changes as the storm sweeps through. Mike, bring us up to date on what's happening right now in the upper Hudson Valley.
And Rick, right now we've got a mixture of sleet and some freezing rain, and I've actually detected what looks like to me on the windshield a few wet snowflakes kind of slapping the windshield, but basically it's mostly sleet and some freezing rain. We haven't seen a lot of freezing rain. That's been the real lucky thing about where we're sitting here in Albany. We've been stuck in the very cold air here in the valley, but areas around us like through the Catskills, some of the other valleys of New England, getting a pretty good ice storm out of this system. Fortunately for us so far, though, mostly sleet. Now the roadways nonetheless are very slippery. Just driving over to the hotel and back, doing some fishtailing, just trying to get through a green light. And you can see, looking out towards the New York State Thruway and the Hudson River, you can see a plow coming down one of those ramps in the distance with the flashing lights. You can see how slow the plow's going. So the roads are certainly not in the best of shape. You'll do about 25 or 30 miles an hour and you'll be okay. But remember to give yourself some extra distance and some extra time and you'll get there okay. And by the way, if you don't have to drive today, the best bet is to sit tight. That's what a lot of people are doing. And I'm sure the police, local police, and the New York State authorities are happy about that because that really cuts down on the risk of accidents. Now, if you're doing any driving on I-95 from New York into Philly, through Jersey, and up toward over towards D.C. and Baltimore, rather, you're in good shape too because temperatures there have warmed tremendously above freezing and are generally now in the 40s and 50s. We expect all of this to be out of here in a few hours, and then it will turn windy and colder later tonight into Monday and Tuesday. We'll have some lake effect well west of here, but for Albany and the Capital District, a few snow flurries with highs generally in the mid to the upper 20s. By the way, we have warmed up to 19 degrees. I know it doesn't sound a lot, but after that 10 below yesterday, 19 feels like a spring day here in Albany, Rick.
All right, Mike. thanks very much. And you know, we checked a little bit of a picture of the atmosphere over Albany. The atmospheric sounding and that cold air, sub-freezing layer is about 4,000 feet thick where you are. And that's why you're seeing the sleet occasionally mixed with freezing rain. But to your south, the colder layer is thinner and hugging the ground. And we have some serious icing conditions now, parts of the Catskills, Connecticut, south central Massachusetts. But in the big cities, like New York City, Philadelphia, D.C., it's well above freezing. Let's go back to New York City, for example, and talk to our winter weather specialist, Paul Cosin. Paul, the story in New York City initially was ice last night, but the mild Atlantic Ocean winds have swept in, and now with the disturbance coming through, it's been extremely heavy rain during the last hour or two.
Right, the entire character of New York has changed from one of midwinter's grip overnight to a late spring rainstorm today, as a squall came through the city. And as a matter of fact, within the last hour, both LaGuardia and JFK airports have recorded extremely heavy rainfall, with over 1.1 inches at LaGuardia and almost 1.5 inches at Kennedy in just 1 hour.
And along with the heavy rains, very strong winds too.
Right, they've been getting some gusts on the order of close to 50 miles per hour. Immediately after the squall passes, the winds do lighten up considerably, but with the passage of that squall, very, very strong winds. And
you were telling me it's not the actual cold front that's producing the heavy rain. In fact, it'll be later today and tonight before the colder air really starts to move in.
Right, it'll probably be still a few hours before the cool air really starts to come back in. But there's a little wedge of warm air that's across Long Island right now, and that should be continuing up towards southern New England.
But the cold air remains trapped in the interior, and we are seeing still a serious icing situation, especially from parts of southeast New York, well north of New York City, over into Connecticut and parts of Massachusetts, where it's still between about 20 and 22 degrees in the vicinity of Springfield and Westfield. How long, Paul, do you think that freezing rain will last in the interior, and is there any chance that the cold air will get scoured out of the valleys?
There's a small chance that in some places, particularly elevated places, will be scoured out. But in these low-lying areas, temperatures are so far below freezing that even as it's getting scoured out, temperatures will only probably rise into the 20s. So low-lying areas of western Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York State, southern Vermont, southern New Hampshire will continue to have some fairly significant freezing rain.
So it's best to go by Mike Seidel's advice, and if you don't have to travel in those areas, don't, because it's icing up very quickly. Once again, as we look at the map, a complex system. We do have those soaking rains. This close in on New York City, and Paul, as we do so, we can see what appears to be almost like a summer squall line moving through, and it's this line of showers and thunder showers that produced the exceptionally heavy rainfall during the last hour.
Right, and there's still some enhanced radar reflectivities observed even over northern New Jersey. And there's still a significant period of rainfall to go for at least the next 1 to 2 hours.
There could potentially be some street flooding, I would imagine.
Well, given there's probably going to be totals of at least 2 inches of rain throughout New York, that's an easy answer.
Okay, and again here we have steady rains over parts of Connecticut, western and south central Massachusetts, and this is a general area where temperatures are far below the freezing mark at this point, and serious icing is going to be underway, and perhaps some significant accumulations during the next couple of hours. In Maine and northern New Hampshire, northeast kingdom of Vermont, it continues to snow, but even there, it looks like mild air in the upper levels will sweep in, and at the very least change it to a wintry mix as the day unfolds. Notice here's the Capital District where we talked to Mike Seidel. Back line of the precipitation not too far away, so only perhaps a couple of more hours of steady wintry mix, and then a respite from the precipitation this afternoon and this evening. Temperatures around the Northeast. Well, New York City flirting with a 50-degree mark, mid-50s in Philadelphia, still in the 20s in Burlington, teens in Albany. It's cooling down in Erie, Pittsburgh, and Detroit as the cold air sweeps in. Your forecast for the Northeast, basically quite a variety of conditions from near 60 in Philadelphia to sub-freezing conditions over the interior from Connecticut, Massachusetts into Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, and eastern New York State. Watch out for the icing. Our evening forecast map, well, it shows for one thing that primary low, the one that brought the heavy snows to Chicago and Detroit, moving into Canada. And Paul, of course, that signifies the end of the significant precipitation, at least in the big cities.
Right, the snow area across Michigan is steadily shrinking, And basically what we'll see by the end of the day is primarily lake effect snows coming off of Lake Superior and Lake Michigan, with especially heavy snows to the lee of Lake Superior across the upper peninsula of Michigan.
And snow totals there could be 1 foot or more in the next 24 hours.
No, certainly in some places.
But probably less than